pull this shit up here now. So you let them have it. Fuck it. I think that should be on. Ah, yes. 3, 2, 1. So, welcome back, everybody. Casual
Hello again.
Cats, episode 14. Today, we are going to be talking about tonight, during the recording of this podcast. We're going to be talking about Bill-C11 and streaming in Canada, among other
Yes.
things, yes.
It is November 3rd right now, and the bill has not gone through for any future people out there, any time travelers watching or
Yes.
listening on Spotify.
Yes.
What is it? Please engage with Spotify. You can subscribe there, please. We will need it because with this bill, it's going to make things very, very difficult for smaller content creators like ourselves.
We're going to get buried by the big boys.
Yeah. So C11 is basically a bill that is going to give the government power to regulate, or rather power to fine YouTube if they do not adhere to content regulatory demands of the government to and those demands would be regarding the promotion of what is known as CanCon content, Canadian content. Canadian content can be defined by basically damn near everything about it has to be Canadian. It has to be funded. 75% of it has to be funded from Canadian companies. 6 out of 10 points. You have to earn 6 out of 10 points based on how many key creative functions. So we're talking about TV shows right here, but the TDLR is that the CanCon, the CTRC, the Canadian, or CRTC, the Canadian Radio, Canadian Radio, Television, and Telecommunications Commission is going to basically have a strong input on how what sort of content gets promoted on YouTube. Reason they're doing this, as they say, as they'll want you to think, has to do with Canada's bilingualism. The fact that we are technically a English and French speaking nation. And as far as numbers for that, Jim, did you have numbers quickly on what we had for like our population? Like,
Yes. 56% of Canadians' mother tongue is English, and only 20.6% of Canadians' mother tongue is French, meaning, of course, that their native language is French. So only 20% of the population speak French in Canada, of which almost all live in Quebec, actually, on this map.
mother tongue. There'd be a number of bilinguals, and we could get the numbers for that, but
Yeah.
but when it comes to like the content that's going to be promoted here, it's going to be French content because I think I don't think it's going to be a secret that French content is going to do worse on YouTube than English content, just because it is, Americanized company and stuff like that. So their idea with it is, so we get so many French people, we get so many bilingual people, but Canadians aren't reflected in the content that they see. So they, i.e., like the French aspect of them. So they want to regulate it in a sense. And same thing goes with Indigenous as well. The certain amount of Indigenous content, certain amount of content that is in Indigenous languages. I can imagine this is very difficult to find on YouTube and on foreign streaming programs and stuff. But the whole thing seems to go in the face of like the free market.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's what they say about it, and then why is it bad? What could happen with it?
Because
is
anytime a government artificially regulates anything, what could go wrong? What has gone wrong? Nothing has
yeah.
ever gone wrong.
Yeah,
Oh God.
there's a lot of potential memery going on with it. In a means of like just do we say the what's authoritarian? It's A or authoritarian is A. Starts with an A, the A word.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Authoritarian. Not
Yeah.
that it goes you know, because we watched who was it? Was it JJ McCullen? Is that his name?
I
I think
think
that was
so. Yeah.
JJ. Let me see. Yeah. Oh, they already took him off the Canadian Google. I can't get his the thing up here. JJ Mac
I just
YUTU.
had him in this video. We watched a couple of videos on him here.
Where was he? JJ.
Yeah. No, fuck it. I can't see where he went. Oh, here actually. Well,
JJ
here he is.
Mac.
Here I don't have his
JJ.
name, but
Yeah,
yeah.
here it is. Yeah, it is JJ McCullen.
His
Harry
name. Okay. All right. Cool.
McCauley. Oh my Christ. MC MCCULLOUGH McCall. Yeah, it's not McCullen, but
No.
McCall or something.
Close enough.
I'm not
I
sure.
guess. If you Google
So
Bill-C11, he comes right up. I'd
yeah, he
say.
comes right
Yeah,
up.
he comes pretty much right.
He went to Parliament and they diced him up. Well, actually, no, they didn't. I think so. He like you can see his opening speech there. I showed Jim his opening speech. We watched it. Or wait, I showed you the other episode, the half-hour long one of
That
his like
was
whole.
that was the breakdown. He went back
Yeah,
or something because there was Bill
yeah,
C10 was the one that first riled everybody up. That was the
mm,
first iteration of the bill, and then it failed because that was during the trucker protest, and Trudeau called the Emergency Act, and they couldn't have
mm,
time to put it through. So now it's in its second form, and it's gone through a couple readings, which is now C11. So this is the revised bill. They had put some revisions in. I mean, I don't know if we're going to go over all the revisions. I'm certainly like legally too stupid to really
yes, there is a
absorb
lot
any.
here. There's a
It's
lot
it's
here.
so much jargon, and I hate
Yeah,
that there needs to be more simple speak sometimes in these bills for simpletons like myself to just digest what they're trying to say. But that's one way to cleverly kind of get around rage of the general public when you're instituting these kinds of sketchy laws that are going to impact like
mm,
Canadian content creators. Because as
yeah,
we kind of mentioned before, but this has been going on, and it goes on in every single country. Every single country has, a quota it needs to meet to, like its content needs to represent that of the country because what you're wanting to do, like it's a form of patriotism. Like you want to have Canadian, well, in our case, Canadian artists. So you want to be listening like on our broadcasting network, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, which is unfortunately a federally funded mouthpiece
mm,
of the Trudeau's government. So it's essentially the Canadian propaganda machine. But anyway, on that network, they have Canadian reporters, they have Canadian actors in the TV shows, they have Canadian singer songwriters, Canadian musicians, composers are the music. So everything you're getting is Canadian content. So we had talked about this a little bit, and I'll try and stay on topic here, but you know, with the age of the internet that we've grown up in, now, actually my favorite musical artist of all time happens to be Canadian, but that there's nothing to do with him being Canadian. He just happens to be Canadian. He's very good. Is Matthew Good from Matthew Good Band. I love that guy. Or I loved his music in the past and always do now. But it does kind of create this artificial environment where, at least like on the global stage, like I don't know, it's very rarely how am I going to say this? I don't want to piss people off. I don't want to like shit on people that get featured on these, because obviously there's still serious competition within Canada to like get featured on one of these. If you're like, I'm a musician, to have your music featured on the CBC's whatever show where they feature new up and coming artists. So within the Canadian, atmosphere, there's still competition there, but it's kind of like, what they're trying to do is they're trying to limit our um, exposure to the outside world, and that's a fucking problem. To prioritize Canadian content is one thing, but by doing that, especially in a sphere like YouTube or Netflix, YouTube especially though, just because there can be a lot of like criticism from other people around the world of like, let's say, Trudeau's response to the trucker protests that happened here in Canada, that a lot of people internationally probably be quite familiar with. Um, there could be an incentive for him to promote this bill just because he wants to try and negate um, that I guess or those opinions, those international opinions, that international perspective, where within Canada, again, we have two mouthpieces for a lot of the media here people consume, at least on the television, which is the CBC and CTV. And CTV is by no means like a trailblazer in holding politicians really accountable for anything. And CBC is literally, and this figure may not be completely correct, I think like 90% of its funding comes from the federal government, right? So the ruling party at the time, so Trudeau's government. So he would have a lot more control of the narrative. And when you're getting a lot of Canadian content creators thrown in your face on YouTube, I mean, maybe some of them may be critical of what's going on with him, but I have a hard time. It's like, well, if they're able to pick and choose Canadian content, can they pick and choose who of those content creators gets on the front page? And I highly doubt they're going to be throwing any of these like pro trucker people up on the front page of YouTube when they go about their selection process of what's Canadian and what's not. They'd probably consider that they already labeled it as like American or Trump funded protest, which it wasn't. So that's when you start to get into kind of sketchy territory with this kind of rhetoric and these kinds of actions. And honestly, the internet's a free place, and well, we think it is. And honestly, you could look at YouTube and Netflix and Google, and like they're kind of all controlled by globalist elements. But at least the content we get right now isn't heavily filtered. If I want to watch French Canadian shorts all day long on my YouTube, then it will naturally, the algorithm will point that in my direction. If I do not want to consume French Canadian content, then it doesn't show up, and I kind of want to keep it that way. Not that I have anything against French Canadians. I love Quebec. I love Montreal. I love people from there, but I don't speak French. I can't
French
understand
Canadians
French.
who are watching French Canadian content should be getting via the algorithm French Canadian content if it's being made. I mean, like, well, maybe it's harder because the French Canadians have a limited sort of amount of money that they can make, but that's not because, I mean, it's solely because it's French, right? Because if you can't understand the content, you're not watching, unless like if it's an artist, I suppose, some painter, some guy who's doing like a who's the guy who had the brush and had the fro, you know his name there. And if he's doing that,
Bob
he's
Ross,
painting. Bob Ross has got a Bob LaRosse there, Bob LaRosse or whatever. He's just painting away. Yeah, he'd probably get promoted or whatever. But anyway, I'm just rambling. This is bad for us. This is frustrating. I hope to God that it doesn't get put through. I don't even know what we could do about it at this point. I feel like we're quite late to the game. We had like some ordinary gamers make a video of it. The JJ there made a video of it. And I don't know. It's just like if we were part of the Laurentian elite, we'd probably have so many more resources right now. Like, I mean, generally we'd have more resources because of, you know, all the money and the lobbying that our peers would have done. But yeah, I don't know.
It appears logic isn't enough to appeal to their senses. but then they're so entrenched in, you know, whatever fucking dogma that they have. I mean, that's what he ran into, right, with trying to just like get through to them. I remember, and this is not really off topic, but Jordan Peterson was arguing about another Bill-C11, which was the compelled speech thing around the
Yeah.
transgender, which we're not going to get into the transgender argument about that, but it was more the compelled speech was the problem, that he was arguing with one of these MPs about like, well, like, do you not understand the problem with compelling speech in this way, right? Because this isn't like compelled speech like in like a corporate, like in like a business setting. It's like this is compelling somebody to like do, if you don't do what you're told in this way, like, and it can create all these terrible problems because, you know, like you can be, it's like thought policing to a degree, and she couldn't understand what the problem with that was. Like she couldn't, and it's like, man, like that's a problem with our education system. Maybe we need to be teaching the kids not just about what happened here in Canada, but maybe what happened in Russia, in communist Russia, or maybe we talk about what happened in Nazi Germany a bit more. That's touched on very briefly, but you know what is talked about. The problem is that a lot of people don't really want to face the dark parts of it because what it requires is them facing the dark parts of themselves. And that's a really hard thing to do because it takes you going back into that place, and it's people just understanding that like those people that were in that setting weren't very different from the people you walk around with today, right? Even just statistically, the amount of people that fell for like Hitler's propaganda back then, like, I mean, there's lots of people out there walking around just like them, right? Like they're literally, they're the same people. They acquiesced to that authoritarian rule because they were scared, and you know, they were kind of, they, I mean, you could call them cowards, some of them, but you know, easier said than done, I guess, to rebel against. But there are lots of people that did. Um, so you know, it's time and again people find themselves, the human race finds themselves in these problems, and it's like, what can the sensible minority do? Um, what power does the sensible minority have? I mean, in this instance, I guess we assume we are the sensible minority. I think we are, um, as our willingness to face all these things. Should show. So like what do you do in this scenario where you're a Canadian content creator, you have a small platform, and you know, although you'd think this would benefit us, it really isn't going to, because it's just going to suppress content, and not just that, it just allows, you know, I think it will create a toxic environment where we will not be able to express ourselves like we would otherwise be able to without this kind of intervention by the Canadian government. So what do we do? Well, we just talk about it, and ultimately there's nothing we can do, and
We just take a backseat to the Canadian Jimmy Fallons and Canadian Stephen Colbert's, because this is basically what that is. It's that sort of like Hollywood moving into YouTube, but it's the dead, like Canadian fucking television CTRC based shit that's coming in and just steamrolling all Canadian content creators.
propaganda. We'll see the
Now,
propaganda.
now,
roll out,
of course, this is all like, this is what we expect from our positions. This is why we're saying this. We're not saying that we have any proof that there's some sort of conspiracy to hold, you know, the lower class down and make them, you know, force them into fucking positions that are basically governmentally funded, and they're trying to shut down all the businesses with the COVID there. That we're not saying that, right? We're not saying all the small businesses that had to close during the lockdowns, and you know, the fact that Trudeau didn't come out to even address the truckers and called them all Nazis and shit. We're not saying that that's bad and that we're becoming an authoritative spot. We're just saying we're worried. It's just very worried because it seems like, it's like if it quacks like a duck and it swims like a duck, and it's got feathers like a duck, might be a Laurentian elite campaign style campaign or promote campaign. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah, so then and it's like what yeah, our options are like what we move out of the country so we can have a fair shot at like being creators on YouTube or foreign places. I
But where do
guess
you go?
well, yeah, where do you go?
States where we get a fair shot to get shot at, right? Like,
Yeah, might like us down there. You
I
never
don't
know.
know,
Like, oh man, you guys are so polite. I like how you
true.
say O's. The other day after listening to JJ McCollum, I was like, oh my god, about holy, I can hear it. About oh, out,
About oh
oh,
oh
about,
hey,
I
bro.
hear it now.
Yeah,
But hey,
yeah.
he's about he hits those O's so hard on a complete side note. I swear to God, he's
About
faking it. I like, what did he say? He said he pronounces the second T in Toronto or Toronto. So it's like I was like, brother, how are you pronouncing both T's in Toronto but hitting that O like it's fucking like it's crisp ice, you know? Like I don't
fucking
know, like
nice.
fucking God.
Master that Canadian fucking accent.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess maybe back to Trudeau a little bit about like why this could be concerning, why it should potentially be concerning. I think maybe I should
Mm.
at least say I'm not affiliated with any political party in Canada. I don't trust any of these fucking people, like none of them. Who are the people right now? So there's Trudeau is the Liberal Party. So the Liberal Party in Canada is red, which for any American viewers watching, it's the opposite down there. Your Liberal Democratic Party is blue, and then the Republican is red. Our conservative, well, Republican Conservative Party in Canada is blue, and it is led by a guy named Pierre Poilievre, who seems like kind of a fucking sketch bag to me as well. He just seems like a dink. And then the other guy is the actually who I honestly like the most out of all of them. He's Canadian, but he's of Indian descent. And he's Hindi, but he wears a turban and stuff. And initially, I kind of vibe with him the most, but I think he's a fucking dink too. From what I've heard from him. And then I don't know who the Green Party leader is. No one knows.
Green Party's like done. Like it started. It's not even really a thing.
No,
The Conservative Party of Canada is garbage too. Actually, you have the Liberal. I guess you have the Liberal and NDP. This is
NDP
coming
it
from
is.
JJ as well, and NDP is the boy with the turban there. Again, I must
Yeah.
know his name. Like I mean, that shouldn't be how we.
I forget his name.
He's the
too,
leader of the
but
NDP party. That's how we know
we're
him.
not
But
the
he
most
has,
cultured
yeah.
people. Yeah. Mm.
I'm just bad with names in general. Okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna Google him up here. Jagmet.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
now
It-
Singh. How I don't know.
Sing.
Sing.
That's
Sing.
it, yeah. Jagmeet Singh. I love Indian food.
Jagmet Singh.
I know I pronounced many Indian food names at my local Indian restaurant.
Yeah, we're just dumb, not
We're
hateful.
we don't know none better, but all these
Easy.
peoples, yeah.
But apparently he's scum because he only supports Trudeau anyways. So
But yeah, it's just kind of cocked by them. So yeah, they're just so I have no affiliation to any of these people. I don't fucking trust any of them. I think a lot of these leaders, one way or another, when they enter that kind of power, get coerced into coerced by these globalists that literally run the world. I do not personally think we live in a democracy, and I always forget the fucking word. Is it a technocracy?
plutocracy.
It's a
wasn't it?
plutocracy,
It's
is I
plutocracy.
believe what we live in globally, which
The wealthy run it.
which is a democracy essentially run by the rich. The wealthy run the planet. That is what we're living in. Just due to lobbying alone, but whether it's done publicly or privately, I don't think there's any way around that. And if the lobbying doesn't work, the blackmail probably starts in one way or another. So I really do think we're living in a plutocracy, and I do not think we're living in an actual. I mean, obviously we have democratic systems at play, where I think if you go and you vote, we hope to Christ. Well, in the States, I don't know, but the voting system down there is a little fucking sketchy. But in Canada, I think we got it's a little bit better. Like I hope my vote goes every time for the fucking Green Party. Right in the trash bin. But when I do vote, it goes for the Green Party. But in regards to Trudeau's rhetoric around the really it was before the trucker protest. It's what incited the trucker protest, but it was
Mm.
his rhetoric around people who did not want to get the COVID vaccine. And he started. We were talking. Me and Lee were talking about this a little bit before we went live here. I'll try to remember what my talking point was on it, but and I'm not intentionally comparing him to Hitler, but unfortunately, some of that rhetoric was not far off from um, stuff authoritarians have used to divide people in the past.
Yeah, I think you were
It was
talking about
divisive.
the environment that he created by being divisive
And
and all
yes,
that.
in saying he was talking about the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated, and how he
Mm.
didn't want to. I'm not going to paraphrase him here exactly, but that we have to like sit beside these people and their children, and there was some other name calling associated with it, but he instantly in that do not think that was by accident. Like, people need to understand that although I don't think the guy is the sharpest tool in the shed, that kind of rhetoric was not accidental. He'd said it multiple times. He had divided the public among the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. And the reason why I believe that rhetoric was intentional was because that rhetoric had been reiterated in multiple Western nations. The Prime Minister of New Zealand said almost the exact same thing. The Prime Minister in the UK at the time, I think it was Boris Johnson, had made comments along those lines. The Chancellor, Prime Minister in Germany. There were a lot of these, let's say, World Economic Forum influenced Western leaders that were espousing the same rhetoric. And it was extremely suspicious and disturbing. Um, so that's why I don't trust this Bill-C11, really. Just because I don't trust the government that's in power right now. And I don't really trust any of the people in power, any of the other party leaders as well. All of these people, to me, I have zero faith in any of them. Honestly, Jordan Peterson talked about running for prime minister. If he survived the electoral process and no one shot him, then I would be very happy. Honestly, I do not think I would be very surprised if anybody post Trump comes into any position of power that isn't under the influence to some degree by these globalist elements.
Mm.
So that's why this kind of bill disturbs me. Not just because I don't want to see, videos that I can't understand in French recommended to me, um, but it's just, it's just a general distrust of the actions of this government. Just of this, the government in general, right? I mean, governments are dangerous fucking things. And that's something that I think was not reiterated enough to people in the Western world over the last 40, 50 years, that the force responsible for more human deaths in the last couple centuries, it wasn't tornadoes, it wasn't disease, it was governments. It was governments running wild. Stalin killed, how many people fucking Stalin kill? It was like 40 million people. Stalin kill. It was disgusting. Oh, they say 6 to 20 million, but there was an estimate possibly upwards of 40 million people could have been killed during his reign in Soviet Russia.
Mm.
And in fact, and in Mao too, in China, like, and these are numbers, these are all guesstimates, but it's yet to be really careful, right? Because again, I've told this analogy to people before, but when you're dealing with people in a political sphere, unfortunately, a lot of the times, the people that run to the power are people you have to be really suspect of. So, this analogy, if you were to put a gun on the table in a room of like 150 desperate people, who do you think the first person is going to be that runs for that gun? Do you think it's the guy that genuinely wants to protect everybody in the room? Or do you think it's the guy that wants the power over everybody in the room? Right? And how aggressively is that person that wants that power going to claw himself over the guy that just wants to help people? I mean, it's a much more motivating thing, right? It's a tantalizing, addicting, terrible force that kind of that longing for power and control, and those people that want those things will go to any ends, I think, to get it. And it's a similar kind of effect comes to play with these political leaders. I mean, I think very rarely do you have like virtuous, good people willingly want to enter into that sphere, especially today, knowing how corrupt. And if you're really like globally educated, how dangerous it can be, especially with some of these other globalist elements that have, wormed their way into the Western world. So, hence why I don't trust a lot of these people in government anywhere in the anywhere in the world, really. I'd just be suspect of anybody that is a politician, especially a politician that longs for that seat of power, like a prime minister or someone along those lines. They're suspect characters to me, but unless proven otherwise. But yeah, John.
Yeah, Justin Trudeau, he had no right being, no, what's the word? No business being prime minister. He
No, he should have never been.
He had great hair. I'm not saying anything bad.
He's a good-looking guy.
He won't hate. He won't hear me hate on his hair, whatever.
Yeah.
He got that haircut. I was like, what are you doing? Honestly, that was the scariest thing I ever fucking saw happen when he shaved all his hair off. I was like, he's gone full dictator now. He doesn't care. He doesn't need the hair, right?
Oh yeah.
He's just gonna have his way with the country, and that's the end of it. And it scared the shit out of me because those sort of things just, I don't know, because he's got a lot of people telling him he's got good hair and he needs to have that good hair. So why is he shaving it off, right? Like, what's he doing? I don't know, right? There's a political motivation behind that, and when you start to dig, it's like, why? Like, what he's trying to like make himself maybe more professional. Like he's not just relying on his looks and his name.
Yeah, I think so.
But like that could be it. It's like, everyone notices my hair. They say that I'm only here for my looks. We shave off the hair, and then maybe they'll start seeing me as just a guy in a suit who runs the country. That JJ McClellan was talking. I forget who he was talking about. It's like an anecdotal like story of some guy in politics who was saying that like eventually as you move up the ladder, you expect to come into like a room where all of the like hyper educated and hyper like with all the good ideas that are like making all the right choices and stuff. He says, but the longer you're in there, and he was a politician for a very long time, it's like you start to realize that it's just normal everyday people who are running the country based on the same level of like misinformation or like ill-informed status of like everyone else. And
yeah,
it just, we've talked about the Peterson principle or whatever here, where it's like as you promote people to new like rankings in an organization, these new rankings normally come with certain responsibilities that differ from the previous ones, and these people have to now adapt these new responsibilities and excel at them to reach a promotion, or they plateau and they never excel. So in their previous job, if they would have stayed there in their unpromoted state, you would have had a person who excels at that position doing good work. But because this promotion sort of Peterson thing happens, where people need to be replaced, and you need to get someone who's like, the next best to replace the guy who's going out, you get all these people in positions which they're just not very competent in. And we definitely get that in our government, and it's all lobbied and shit. Like, oh my God, it's so lobbied.
It's complicated. I mean, the lobbying in the United States is astronomically bad, I guess. Like, it's so fucking bad. Here in Canada, there's some laws that prevent it, publicly at least, to the degree that, like, it happens in the States. But yeah, 100% it's bad. I mean, privately, these guys are getting slip bills under the table to keep, like, the oil companies going along, or any fucking media companies like this Bill-C11. I'm sure there's things baked into there that we haven't even read into yet that benefits Bell Canada is a big media outlet here in Canada. Sure, there were two people on the board from Bell Canada actually at the drafting of this, so I'm sure they're in there. I'm reading John's comment. High estimates that communism killed 100 million people in the 20th century. That's a high, yeah. That, I mean, it could be that fucking many, which is obscene, right? In regards to Trudeau and the hair thing, now, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Plato, as this is rooted in a philosophy podcast, I guess. We're not like information experts here, but we are philosophers of one kind or another. But his example of a sweet shop owner. This is literally Justin. This was Justin Trudeau. So this is Justin Trudeau circa, when did he get elected first? Wasn't it like 2009 or something? This is right around like when I started like smoking weed, and he brought that fucking sweet thing to the table. He was like, "Listen, you elect me, I'm gonna legalize marijuana. No more feeling like a criminal going to buy weed." It's like, oh, wonderful. Now, fast forward 10 years and all the shit they're selling at the weed stores is fucking trash. But anyway, so here's an example Plato gives of the sweet shop owner. So he gives the example of the doctor and the sweet shop owner. The sweet shop owner can make the argument against a doctor that he gives you bitter syrups and pokes holes on you, cuts your skin and takes your blood, but he can offer you many sweets and candies. Sorry, that wasn't quoted very well. Surely no one with their right mind would vote for the doctor. The sweet shop owner is the story of a demagogue. Yeah, whoever wrote this article needs to fucking learn how to write. Anyway, so essentially the sweet shop owner is going to appeal to like, what people want, not what they need, right? And that's what Trudeau did. And it was the example of like a demagogue. So I'll give you the definition of a demagogue. So a political leader who seeks support by appealing to the desires and prejudices of ordinary people rather than by using rational argument. That is quite literally Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, so there we did.
He's literally a demagogue. He's and now this is a lot of Western politicians where they're just appealing to the masses, right? Saying whatever they can do to get the vote, right? To manipulate the people in any way they can through the media, whether it's like having a guy run out with a Nazi flag, right? Or whether it was by his hand or not, I don't know, or an opportunity, right? To then label the truckers, like the worst thing you can call somebody literally is a Nazi, right? And then acting like a Nazi afterwards, using divisive language. And it's like the biggest fucking hypocrisy I've ever known. And then the general public is just, where are they with it? Oh, he's good looking though. Yeah, he's good. He's hot.
Call him a grump.
I hate to say it. Yeah, call him a grump. He's good looking. He's a terrible speaker though. Like he sounds like a fucking sociopath.
Who said it? It's just he knows how to say a speech, but he's not able to like make it sound convincing or like anything like he's just speaking like written words that we don't know if he wrote, and
he's a drama teacher.
And, yeah.
He's
and
an
so
actor.
often
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like what was I saying this before? Like fucking do me up a play, bud. Like I forget why I was asking him for that.
Bud, we're in one. We're in a play now.
I was like like write me up a fucking play.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
Yeah.
But yes, we got fucking try to. We do vote him out or move?
Well,
which one?
Well, and this is the thing. I mean, do we need a more? I mean, clearly you need a more rational actor. But again, back to like, who can you trust? Who's gonna? This is the thing. This is what I want.
The option, I guess, the option is to start the Casual Cats streaming service, where like we just have our own website. We post videos and we go against YouTube and all the other ones, which is probably about like it's probably about 50-50 when it comes to effort and success if this bill goes through, to be completely honest. Like making our own platform from the ground up, or like fighting the CanCon, or being CanCon, I guess. Like, hey bud, hey, keep your stick on the ice there, bud. Like, I don't know, how do we do it? Like, we got their truck there and we're going fishing later. Out Winnipeg, they got the ice rinks nice and slick, and fucking all the Maple Leafs, don't talk to me about them. We got I'm a Canadiens fan, which I think is a very weird thing. You get the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Canadiens. Anyways. I'm not big into hockey, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know
We get
hockey either,
we could do
unfortunately.
that. We just maybe we could have a whole section, a casual cats section, which is just like where we just try to become more Canadian, and we have the most Canadian people on, right? We could
What?
do that.
Yeah, what does Canadian mean? Yeah, they'll fucking be
Yeah,
drinking the
what does it
Canadian
mean to be
beer.
Canadian? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of TikTokers that do like some Canadian style content, which I've seen. One guy likes to he likes to do like the sort of hockey bro sort of a speech pattern and stuff. And like he refers to long hair as lettuce, and like he's always doing that like thing where they're I don't know what they do where they snap their fingers or whatever. And he's talking about like having some brewskis with the boys, and like, you know, and friggin' like what's one of the compliments they use? You're a champion, bud. You just call him a champion. It's great stuff.
Holy fuck.
Yeah, there's plenty of
Yeah.
them. And I don't know, like if it goes through, maybe there'll be a bunch of them that are looking for platforming potential or whatever. I don't know. So fucking
Yeah.
that could be one thing that we do if it does go through, seeing as we can't do all that much to stop it right now. We don't have much of an outreach.
Just use TikTok. Listen,
Mm,
controlled by the CCP. It's an obvious the
yeah.
CCP on the CCP, the
Yeah.
Casual Cats podcast and the Chinese Communist Party, right? Not that we want to publicly make that association whatsoever. We absolutely do not. We have no ties to China whatsoever. Just make that clear right now.
Yeah.
But everyone using TikTok fucking does.
Mm,
So yeah. I was gonna say like I wonder when a Western nation is going to get a leader that is going to actually give people like the hard truth on the state of the world. Because like nobody's done that yet. And like maybe that'd be astronomically stupid to do, right? But I wonder when that's going to happen, if that ever happens. But I feel like that's kind of what the world needs right now. And, you know, the Queen just died. High time that Canada removed itself from paying what that tariff, whatever it's called, the fucking Queen's tax or whatever. We shouldn't be
mm,
paying them any fucking money anymore. Like we're a country now, you know, we're bordered with the U.S., which is very independent, but it's also very problematic because, like, again, the lobbying that goes on there, run by the rich, right? Country run by the rich, world run by the rich too. When is somebody going to inform the general public that that is what we're living in? That's what I want to know. Would even a character like Jordan Peterson do that? I don't think so. Just because obviously it would be ill-advised to inform people that were in a little bit more of a dire situation than they usually want to insinuate. But there are a lot of good, intelligent people that, for whatever reason, whether it's like appeal to authority fallacies they've got running around in their head, that just because the government isn't telling you that this is how bad things are, that they aren't bad. It's like, well, no, like there's they are. Um, it's that no one cares to tell you about like how bad things are.
mm.
So because you're a part of the puzzle that keeps, well, part of the you're a cog in the wheel that keeps everything else moving. So
Yeah.
they're a
And like
machine.
with this act too, I think there was another one. I don't know, but I think there was another one where the content that Canadians receive is already like curated via I don't want to say government, but it's curated in some sort of like fashion. You know, I guess it
Mm.
would be the algorithms and stuff, but it's curated from a Canadian uh medium. I don't know which one, but we'd have to look in that for another one.
Oh,
But
did I fucking tell you guys about this video watch where they're like deleting parts of the internet?
I don't know.
Oh shit. This is a relevant topic to talk about. Just a second here. So he's this guy I'll watch occasionally. His name, it's from Bright Insight, is his channel. His name's Jimmy Corsetti. He was on Joe Rogan talking about Atlantis a little while ago. He had this video, was it a month ago? And he was like, so what he was doing, oh shit, sorry. I'll post this later because I don't want to, like, anyway. Well, actually, you know what we can do is we can just plop this up here right now. Let's do that for our viewers. I think it's fucking, I think it's fine to do this. Yes, done. Oh my God, what the hell? Okay, let's. It would appear that this is in a strange format right now. Anyway,
Why is it so long?
I don't know.
It's long.
A long boy one. Oh fuck! I opened something unintentionally. Here we go. Yeah. Oh, you know why it's long? Hold on. I got the program I opened by accident.
In theater mode or something?
Yeah, I'm in theater mode. That's what's going on. Okay, here we go. Motherfucker. If people are watching this in the podcast, like, deal with it. You just got to fucking deal with it. Okay, here.
Now, as far as internet search results, is far worse than even I had realized. In my previous video, I showed what happens when you Google certain topics, or any topic, whether it be something controversial or something benign, and how it will show hundreds of millions and even billions of search results. But when you scroll over just a few dozen pages, it just stops dead in its tracks. And upon doing some further experimenting into this, because I read many comments and people asking what happens when you use alternative platforms like DuckDuckGo and others. So upon doing some experimentation, I found that it's even far worse than I had realized. And this is really important because certain people had some feedback saying that, okay, this is nothing sinister, this is nothing, conspiratorial, it just has to do with data and how the internet search engines work. But let me just jump into this to show you just how bad things truly are involving the controlling of information. Okay, so here I am back at Bing, which is the second largest search engine after Google/YouTube. And here I am, I just type in this simple little date, which we all are aware of, and as you can see, we have 8.7 billion search results. So let me just scroll back down and do what we did last time, except for you're gonna find something far more disturbing than the results just cutting off. So give this just a second, and notice that at the top, every time I go to another page, they throw Wikipedia at the very, very top. But start to notice some of these reoccurring titles. Ex-officer, police officer gets 7 years in prison. After Mar-a-Lago search, users on pro-Trump, blah, 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 blah. So just wait for it because you're going to see very quickly the same thing over and over and over again. Look at this. Mar-a-Lago, sorry, it keeps highlighting everything, but look at this here. Keep
It's all
watching.
the same narrative. They're only
After
giving you one
Mar-a-Lago
narrative.
users, blah, 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 from NBC News. So that's page 13. Let's go to page 15. Again, Wikipedia. Go down. Same article right here. Ex-officer gets 7 years. NBC News, Mar-a-Lago golf course, blah, blah, blah. This same one, NBC News, after Mar-a-Lago, blah, blah, blah. Go to page 17. Same thing. Look, this article as well from Wikipedia. January 6th. Yeah. Look at this. Over and over again. Look, page 17. Let's go to 19. Look at this.
Jesus Christ.
People were trying to criticize me in my prior videos saying that you don't understand how the data works. It does.
Yeah, so he goes on with that. So essentially what the point he's trying to make is that what they're doing, these tech companies, is they're telling you, they're curating your results already. So kind of like the Bill-C11 is going to curate the content you consume so that if you're in Canada, it's going to be more Canadian-oriented content. What these...
Well, it's going to... Well, C11 is actually going to force YouTube to alter their algorithm so that...
Right, okay.
It does it. Right now, this is Google curating fucking everything.
Right. So this is Google. Well, all the search engines, though, disturbing part. He did it on DuckDuckGo, Bing, and
Bing,
Google.
Yeah.
So with Microsoft and whoever owns DuckDuckGo and Google. But they're all following the same narrative where they're giving you, like, technically, however, it wasn't 8 billion, it was 8 million different results technically for that articles. But they're only going to curate for you the ones that are fact-checked approved, right? So we're already in this scenario where, now, again, this is right across the board, whether it's in the States or Canada or New Zealand or Australia or the UK. We've got an overarching theme here, right? And that theme, and I don't want to say it's a World Economic Forum because it's not. There's another element at play that's coercing all of these different tech companies, political leaders, thinkers, even money movers, these guys that invest in these tech companies. Like, they're not sailing the ship there. Like, they're just along for the ride. So, and this has changed. And he made a couple good points, and I remember this. But on Google, like, or even back on like Yahoo and like the older days, you would get like if you typed in like Les Paul guitar or like brown horse, like you would get thousands of, like, you could go to page like 500, right? And you could see all of it, and it would be pretty unfiltered, right? Now, even back then, I think they would kind of try and cut some of the bullshit out at first, but it's gotten to the point now, like, for instance, on Wikipedia is a source that's, anyone can edit it, but they have these curators that will just like have authority over it, to where, there was a guy, Brett Weinstein, is Eric Weinstein's brother. He has a podcast called the Dark Horse Podcast, and he's been very critical of the COVID response. He's a evolutionary biologist, and like, he cannot go on Wikipedia and change some of the things they put on, because instantly it gets changed back to COVID misinformation agent. So like, he cannot change. Someone's decided the narrative for him. So Wikipedia is a mouthpiece of whatever this is as well. But it just what we're just talking about remind me of this video where they may very well be deleting parts of the internet. I mean, it's a pretty free, open resource. I fucking hope not. But what he just kind of elicited there was some serious concern for me, at least, that they're filtering what you're seeing heavily. I noticed this happened around when Trump started running for president. I noticed that's when it became blatant to me that there was some narrative down in the States that did not want him in power. And that's kind of when I started to realize that he was probably his own man in that race, and he was a threat, and they desperately did not want him down there. And a lot of people saw that. Hence why I think a lot of people know he's a fucking idiot. Like, they just wanted to shake the system up. And see, they never talk about that either, right? In regards to him, all anybody has to say is that he's an idiot. And we're like, well, yeah, that's pretty fucking obvious from a lot of his rhetoric, right? He's kind of like a big man baby. But a lot of people voted for him, I think, because they wanted to shake the fucking system up. If you don't understand that the system is broken, then wake the fuck up, right? So that was the intention behind that whole thing, I think. A lot of people, and there's a lot of people that didn't vote for him the second time around, but then they accused the other administration of bringing the elections. And to be completely honest, I wouldn't surprise me if that was going on. Not one fucking bit. Just at the level of propaganda we're seeing here through just the tech companies alone with this bullshit and the fact checking, and wouldn't surprise me if we're that deep down the fucking hole that's what's going on. Can't prove that. I think obviously there's a lot of discord in the States around Trump, and that they did not want him to be elected again. A lot of people didn't like him too, again, because he's an idiot. I think they kind of missed the whole narrative there a little bit. But it is what it is, was what it was. But in regards to this, yeah, this is very disturbing. But anyway, thought I'd just blip that up there for people. You can check him out. Can I click on his thing again? Will it show up? No, we don't want to listen to you again, but Bright Insight. There you go. You can see it. Bright Insight. He does like ancient history stuff, usually. He's got pretty good videos. I like his stuff. Yeah, that's that. But anyway, just to kind of tie into the Bill-C11 and regulating the internet and changing the algorithm on YouTube to better fit Canadian content feeds. They're even doing this on our search engines now, where they don't want us to see things. So yeah.
Fucking nonsense. I'll read this little bottom couple paragraphs of on this openmedia.org. I don't know if this is a typo, or I think this is probably still relating to Bill C10, but C11 is basically C10 with things. So Bill C10 and the future of Canadian content. The streaming-friendly internet has been the best thing that's ever happened to many Canadian creators who were boxed out of the old broadcasting system. But Bill C10 tips the scales back towards traditional broadcasting giants, awarding them streaming revenue taken from new online platforms while doing nothing to support the indie and small creators who have thrived on those sites. Now, mind you, the indie and small creators are a bigger force in the sort of YouTube, I think, in the growing media than the old CTV and all that.
Oh yeah.
But so the fact that this helps this dying form of media and all that and boxes out like people, I think that's very, very bad. It's another like kind of adpocalypse sort of thing on YouTube where you're just going to not really so much an adpocalypse, but it's another event close, like akin to the adpocalypse when it comes to like how difficult it's or it's raising the hurdles to get into the online streaming and content creation idea. So the bill's massive scope can include special taxes paid by online streaming services to the Canada Media Fund (CMF), uh, as well the power to issue quotas forcing these platforms to carry a minimum amount of official CanCon a la traditional broadcasting. So we knew that bit. Under these rules, small creators whose content doesn't qualify under the point system still won't be able to access CMF funding or have their own content recognized as quota eligible CanCon. As well, foreign-based online platforms and streaming services that work with the support Canada creators will be made to pay into the CMF, but their joint projects still won't be able to access those funds. So basically, they're saying that there's going to be a fee to basically being a content creator from Canada who's not Canadian, sort of. Because if like Twitch was like, okay, you're a partner, um, but there's this CMF funding or what is it? We made to pay the CMF. Okay, so yeah, so they'll eventually have to pay the CMF to host them, which I imagine would see either that would either come out of what the creator gets paid, or there's some sort of like special subscription sort of thing that they're gonna have to end up having, or they just won't deal with it, right? Which is the big issue. They're just not gonna look at changing it. Okay, so what does so who does win with C10? Unfortunately, that would be Canada's biggest broadcasting companies who gain fresh funds to line their already overflowing pockets and laws that strictly curb the threat of competition from online platforms. In effect, this bill will take from and restrict popular new media in order to hand over even more power to massive legacy broadcasting giants. We could do much better. Instead of rushing through a giveaway bill to prop up Canada's legacy broadcaster, Olga Poly. One second. We're gonna get this word here. I've never seen this word before. I need to know. Can we oh shit. Definition. Oligopoly, a state of limited competition in which a market is shared by a small number of producers or sellers. Um, so the Canada's legacy broadcaster oligopoly. We should start with thoroughly updating our decades-old definition of what counts as Canadian content. I think that's a good idea. And create a system that works for everyone, small new media creators, and diverse cultural content included. So, email your MP, drop a Bill-C11 and design real CanCon reform that works for our creators in our internet. So, have more questions, check out this thing there. So, I guess emailing MPs is what we can do. New Brunswick has like a lot, don't they? Or is there only one MP?
No. Well, isn't
MPs
there a riding for
current members of parliament? New Brunswick. I think it was weird. JJ was saying that New Brunswick has like 10 members of parliament, where like Ottawa has like 4, has something ridiculous like that, where like we are hugely over represented.
Yeah.
How
Yeah, there's 10. There's 10, yeah.
Yeah.
So our well, my MP would be. Well, we're not going to say his name, actually.
We just one of these guys.
Couple of these guys here. Yeah. Hey, Mr. MP, we really don't want this to go through, but all these big legacy media outlets really wanted to. I know they sent you a check for $100,000 to put this through, but can you please not? Because we need to make $5. Thank you,
Yeah.
your local fucking podcast. Yeah, like
Yeah.
fuck, that's gonna do anything. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I'd love to know how, like, what the mechanism is that's going to allow these legacy media outlets more control
Out of
over.
all of them here, just looking at their pictures, I would say that ours is the best looking guy, and not like good looking, but I think like he's the most reasonable looking guy. But he also looks like the guy who's got someone tied up in a storage container that nobody knows about right now. So I don't know. He's kind of on both
Actually,
sides.
to maybe,
He's like listening. He's like, "Well, fuck your goddamn bill. I'm putting that through now."
well,
Call me a serial killer.
give a bit of, he got his hair cut at the same place I got my hair cut, and he would come in regularly, and he's a very loud individual. But I think he's a decent guy. He was actually the only. I think this is the only time this ever happened. But in the House of Commons or wherever, like he went against his own party. So his own party, like, essentially wanted him to get behind something, and he went and agreed with the Conservatives. So then they kicked him out. They sent him home on timeout. And that was when I was in the haircutter place, and he's talking about how he's in the fucking he was in whatever it's called in hockey in the lockout area.
Penalty box.
He's in the penalty box. I was like, you know what? I should have said this to him, but I was like, thank fuck you did that. Right?
Yeah.
I was like, thank fuck you did that. You got balls, and it's not about these games. Like, these people are fucking idiots. A bunch of narcissistic morons in there. Like, and he was the only person that had the courage to do what he felt was right. And that's how they reacted. That just gives you an idea of how far gone a lot of these systems are when you hear things like that, and how I have literally no hope that this is going to go in a better direction, and that it's only going to go
They
down.
would have kicked him out if he was from Fredericton.
Well,
wondering
I
here.
don't know. I mean,
Think about this for a second here.
yeah.
He might be our guy, though. Wonder if we could get him on. We get him on a call
Oh my
one day.
god, yeah. Listen, but I seen him shapeshift. I saw him shapeshift. It was in the bathroom of the fucking House of Commons Parliament. He shapeshifted. All downhill.
They've
from
got
there.
cloaking suits that they wear in the
Yeah.
bathrooms, and they fucking
Yeah,
they're quiet.
yeah.
They're spying us.
There's adrenochrome everywhere over the sink. They're sucking it out of the sink.
Snorting adrenochrome off the fucking sink.
Yeah, that'd be the end of his
Oh
political
my
career.
God. Yeah. So the
Give us a break.
oligopoly, yeah.
Yeah.
So fuck the oligopoly.
Yeah.
This hour has 22 minutes. No one, I'm sorry. You had your 22 minutes, okay?
I watched
Go.
that when I was 5, maybe. How
Yeah,
many years ago
yeah.
was that now? 27 years ago? Fuck.
Yeah. Canadian Air farce, okay? Your farce is up, okay? Go. Get going. New
See
media
you
time,
boys.
okay?
Yeah. See you boys.
Fucking, what else? Who's that one with Colin Mockery on it? All the improv. Whose line is it anyways? That Canadian?
Mm,
Get going,
see you,
okay?
bud.
You're all like 70. Colin Mockery, you're a great guy. You definitely deserve, you know, you shouldn't have trouble getting content out there. You don't need your name is big. Yeah, because I mean that's the other thing too is like we think, oh well, okay, like let's just assume that this is not it's not about control. It's not about control or injecting narratives or anything like that, incepting ideas. It's not about that, right? Let's just say it's about like, oh frig, I'm losing my train of thought. So it's about like fairness and like as they say, like nationality, right? We have to make Canadians be proud of our heritage of Frenchiness and
Make
all that.
Canada great again. Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna make Canada great again. I forget my point against it, but we we are okay. I remember it now. So the world is going to develop a hell of a lot faster um, than I think this bill is going to allow Canadians to keep up. Does that make sense? So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we are all of a sudden going to kneecap our discoverability of our like most determined
Treasured
and I guess like treasured or whatever
resources. Yeah.
individuals that are going that would have a chance at making a big difference in the world and then putting Canada on the map or whatever, right? And I get it. Like if you, as you said at the start of this, I think like if you want to watch like French content, then you will search out French content. There's nothing that's stopping French content from being put on the internet, unless that guy you talked about how they're
Yeah.
deleting the internet or something or whatever, like slowly keeping the narrative like. But I don't know for 20% of the population to have. I mean, we don't know what sort of level of 3, 2, 1 level of representation that is gonna be come about from this, but
Mm.
it just seems so sad to like almost punish all of the English speaking creators or bilingual creators who don't want to make like CanCon style content. Like
Mm.
there are so many opportunities doing business with people across the world. We have the ability to do that. And so
Mm.
what they're just saying that like fucking like oh, get famous in another country then like fuck you like because you're not Canadian
Yeah.
content. It's so bullshit, especially for a country that talks about being so multinational and like holy fuck. It is the craziest shit. Um
Yeah.
Fuck, bud. Keep your stick on the ice. Fucking
Oh my
like,
god. We gotta try and
oh
stay
my
relevant
god, did
here.
you
Yeah.
fucking see the potato fucking crop this year? Like, we can talk about shit that's in Canada. Like, we could do it, I guess. Like, PEI, when that last storm hit, the shape of PEI changed. It was like a couple, like, last month. What was it? I forget
Did
the
it
name of
actually?
the hurricane.
Yeah.
But it was really bad. A lot of farms got fucking just ripped all up and stuff. And it's that's some Canadian content we could, but I don't know,
Yeah,
fucking.
but on globally, who the fuck cares about that? Like,
Well, that's the thing, right? Like
it's-
it's like so we talk about
yeah.
that and we get the CMT funding or whatever for being CanCon,
Yeah.
but that kneecaps the promotability of the content itself. It's like
Yeah.
you're I mean, I get the so there was this when I was in school for like pharmacy tech or whatever, there it would be like you could get a grant of some kind if you chose to. I don't know. I think it was maybe just they offered this for pharmacists, but if you chose to stay in the country to practice for your first like X amount of years or whatever, they would like pay you for your education basically. A little bit. They will pay like so much money towards it. And it's
Mm.
like those things like you can argue, taxpayer money, yada yada, but um, because we have an issue with our healthcare system. Doctors go to school for an insane amount of time and put a lot of effort into it, and then they can't really get the money because socialized healthcare or whatever. But so they leave, and so they offer incentives. But this is not like an incentive; it's like an anti-incentive to foreign companies to not like show what the government specifically says that they should, and that it just goes against free market. I don't know, and I don't get how that's not a priority of like something we want to keep, right? Like
Yeah.
why as Canadians, and again here I don't want to get too crazy because not French speaking. I don't live a life where I have my mother tongue and it doesn't get promoted to me on YouTube. Okay? I don't live a life that um a good person, like I'm a minority in the country when it comes to my language, and I don't feel represented by that, and I also don't live a life that where I know people like that. So I'm very on one side of this and seeing how it affects me, of course. is it though? I don't know if I'm completely convinced that it's the best way to help the promotion of like the bilingual type of content that Canadians can create. I think like there's many ways you can go about it,
Mm.
other than saying that when YouTube is got two like fucking content creators that are both Canadian, and this one has a lot of like is getting the traction because it's making good content, and then this one's making Canadian content. I don't think this one should be up here, or else like, or that these guys got to pay or something to put them above. Like I think that's basically what this is kind of turning into. It's like if you want to be a Canadian content creator who's not doing Canadian content, well, you're gonna have to probably pay YouTube or whatever streaming service for the promotion that you would get normally. So from that perspective, I see, I see a road of hardships for me, and then what happens with the French content. I don't even know if I don't perceive its promotion over others being like yeah, it would help it, but from the free market like outlook, from like how that is going to work itself out,
Mm.
you're just going to get videos that go from like no engagement to low engagement, right? I'm not saying promote casual cats either over this. I'm just saying that the
Please
casual
do.
cats. Well, I mean, please do,
Please fucking do.
please do.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
there's merit to, or not merit. Is it merit? Like,
Yeah.
like with, I don't know. I'm sure there's good content creators out there that are like bilingual and all that, and that deserve spots, and maybe they, but it shouldn't be like,
We don't want to artificially prop them up to a place where they naturally wouldn't have got to.
Mm.
That's a problem.
And like,
yeah.
and there is the thing where it's like, if like there's specific judgments that can be made on content based on like, it's content. So if we're doing like any TOS stuff, then rightly so, you shouldn't be really promoted or anything against TOS. But that's very different than saying there's a criteria for what your content has to be engaged by or like paid by to get a thing. I don't know. It's just fucking.
Yeah, well,
where are we moving?
I think we're moving to. We hit on it earlier with the article you read there, kind of breaking down what this really means, and that it's going to redirect a lot of funding back to these legacy media outlets, so they can start to claw back control over the audience, which is going to fail. Like, they're not going to have any success in that, right? And you have to ask yourself why. And likely you're looking at, well, they held the narrative before, and there was nobody rocking the boat. What's happened with these independent content creators on these different social media platforms, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, etc., Facebook, they've been able to organize and they've been able to rock the boat. And somebody doesn't like that. Now, it's probably a group of somebodies, and those somebodies are probably all over the place, and there's some people in Canada, etc. I think there's some kind of hierarchy that is using the Western world, sitting atop the Western world, and using all these different people down the ladder. But I think there's the culprit there. That here's what it's all about. It may not even be about really, trying to change the algorithm. And although, again, this is the thing. Like, we don't know how they're going to change the algorithm. Really, they're outlining how they say they're going to do it, but like, I don't know. I just don't fucking trust them. Like, they're gonna, just like Google, right? Now, Google's a company, right? Not a government. And they're running this bill through all these different readings so people can kind of sift through it, and things that need to be amended and changed can be amended and changed. But just like Google was saying, well, we don't like manipulate public opinion through, our platform. Like, and then, they're going in around that event, they 100%, as that guy just showed, were filtering the searches like heavily. They were trying to shift the narrative around it, where all people were reading was the official narrative. That was it. They weren't hearing any other narrative. That was it. That's all people could find. So the general public, and this is the thing, Like people watching this that think for themselves, right? That are critical thinkers, or maybe they're not critical thinkers, but they at least are willing to take the time to sit and try and have their own opinion on these things. You know, you're in the extreme minority. A lot of people are literally just going to go fact check something on Google for 2 seconds and be like, nope, wrong. See, I showed you. This is the way it is, because it's a lot. That's an easier way to live your life, and you're not taking a lot of responsibility for your life in that way. And that's a lot of people. It's hard. It takes a lot of courage to face some of these truths, and they are truths. You know, that there's unfortunately a dark hand sifting through the Western world, and you know, we don't know exactly what that is. It's not. I don't think it's Klaus Schwab in the bugs necessarily. Probably an element of that involved, but I think with this bill, you're seeing an attempt to try and censor the media that's been causing a headache for these people that are on the boat, and they're tired of having it be rocked. Hence why it wouldn't surprise me if there's something else. I mean, there's been people smarter than ourselves who I think are going through this as it's being amended. But if there's not more shady shit that's going to end up in there that will allow them to shift the algorithm maybe towards Canadian content that they deem fact checked, right? So that'd be
that's the fucking old man behind the curtain with this, right? It's like, they say it's about you know, indigenous discoverability, French bilingual discoverability, but ultimately there's this resonance from the COVID era Trudeau decisions that's sort of, you know, you look at some of these things and it's like, this wording does not make me confident that that they're just gonna like let things be and just promote people that like, oh yeah, this guy's speaking French, this guy's native. I don't know if that's gonna be what it is. It's gonna be this guy's speaking French and he's not speaking out against the this and that, or this, like there'll be more criteria. I know maybe the bill doesn't reflect this. The proportion of programs to be broadcast shall be original French language programs. Okay, so like, this is weird, because right here it says the proportion of programs to be broadcast that shall be Canadian programs in the proportion of time that shall be devoted to the broadcasting of Canadian programs. So they're going to try to suss out a proportion of time that's going to be devoted to the broadcasting of Canadian programs. What does that mean? Live? Is they're going to do live stuff?
Well, this is my question with it, in that's what is applicable to like the CBC, like any broadcasting corporation that's licensed in Canada has to adhere to those rules. Now, if this bill goes through, to what degree would us as Canadian streamers on Twitch have to adhere to some of these guidelines? I don't think we'd be responsible to adhere to any of those guys. I think that's only for like licensed like media corporations functioning in Canada have to adhere to those kind of guidelines. I think we're excluded from that. I fucking hope so. It'd be apocalyptically bad if we had to start like adhering to stuff that's like communist level like control over like all forms of media. I cannot imagine. But that's the threat, right? If they start implementing stuff like this, that's potentially where it could go. And that's obviously what we don't want. But this is the thing that people need to understand. Like when this kind of authoritarianism starts creeping in, and this bill isn't necessarily an example of like authoritarianism, but these kinds of people doing these things, these are the kinds of people that went to the natives and traded them a bunch of pots and pans for like 1,000 acres of land. Like these are your fucking assholes right here, right? Creeping in and fucking over all these good people that are just trying to live their life, and they don't want to, you know, just taking advantage of good people. And that's what they're really doing with this community. Same kinds of people that took advantage of all the indigenous tribes that were here before. And like what happened with that. And you talk, I mean, you want to get red in the face, you just talk about that. We'll talk about that sometime. In the Catholic Church and what happened up north. And they just had a day for them. Oh, wonderful. They didn't really talk about what else went on with that, how sketchy it was. that all these kids died. Like, what the fuck happened there? Like, they didn't really talk about, like, what were they doing with the kids? They just not feeding them? Or were they, like, sexually torturing them? Like, what the fuck was going on? Like, was it darker than, like, and I'm not even starting that. So, anyway, this is what we're up against. Fucking scumbags. And they are scumbags doing this.
Yeah. It's a huge bill. They should really, like, I don't know. I get that the Senate and the House of Commons, like, have people to read through these bills and then yada yada. But I feel like, I don't know. It's just like, how do you trust these people to go in and understand the effect that this is going to have on the masses? That so there's a little bit of, like, conservation of jobs in Canada. I guess that kind of has to be maybe talked about. We can't have everyone just going to YouTube and then making money off YouTube. But I mean, you need people working and schooling and stuff. But it just,
well, we're paying our taxes. Well, kind of us, but like people. Well, I mean, content creators, you're making money. You're still paying taxes at the end of the day. I mean, now even through donation system through Twitch, you still have to claim some of it. So like, we still be paying taxes. So, I mean, yeah, it's just in general there. But like, I don't know. Again, this sounds like kind of a globalist ideology, but like, we are kind of moving into, like, we're a global civilization now. Like, we're shifting into that where there's only a couple countries left that aren't really playing ball, and it's some of the Asian countries, but they're much more xenophobic than us. Like, they would never really and they're very different too, I guess. There's a difference there. But we're kind of moving into, like, a global society. We've had a person from, I think, Japan watch the podcast or something, or was that my music? But anyway, it's we're shifting into that place. Not that I want a one world government run by these fucking idiots, because it would turn into 1984. I was telling Leaky before, me and my partner, we were watching V for Vendetta. I hadn't watched that movie since I was a kid. Probably since shortly after it came out. But great movie, kind of it takes place probably around this time, actually, in England. And I didn't really remember much about I knew they were living in, like, an authoritarian, like a kind of like a fascist, like Hitler-esque dictator. That was, oddly enough, played by John Hurt, who was one of the guys that was he was like the protagonist from 1984. I thought that was funny that they had him play the bad guy in V for Vendetta. Like, he was like the chancellor. He was the protagonist in 1984. Anyway, the plot of the movie is, I guess, the Iraq War gets out of control and it finds its way on, like, England's doorstep. And then to cope with it, they have this strong guy come up who, like, with an iron fist, like, pushes everything back, but then consequently, like, then rules with an iron fist, right? Which is the problem, that if someone has a reaction like that, then that's how probably they're going to rule. So kind of what happened with Hitler. And then they just kind of, people fight back in the end. Well, they just bring the guy down they bring the guy, not spoilers or anything, but they bring the guy down in the train tunnel after and cut his throat. So the ending of it is, I don't know, I'm not going to really go into it, but anyway, it wasn't as satisfying as I thought it'd be. But anyway, yeah, is that where we're headed? Is that where we're headed in Canada? I personally don't think Trudeau will survive the next election. So I don't know then, and I think probably the guy that's going to win is a Pierre Poilievre guy. But then we're not really going to be much farther along until we get, like, a philosopher, like a deep thinker into position of power. I have no faith in any of these people until Jordan Peterson ran. The problem with Jordan Peterson running, though, is he's become so divisive that I feel like the opposition, he would have a hell of an opposition. And he would rule over a very divided Canada. Until he talks sense into them, which I don't think he's going to be able to. Because the mainstream media narrative around him is very much, especially, you've noticed, though, but you know, I've noticed around him, is that there's all these celebrities making like references to him now, like negatively. Like they're associating him as like king of the incels, and there was that Meghan Markle made some comment and took something he said out of context recently. And you're starting to see the globalists are starting to catch on now that they got all their little finger puppets, right? They dug them out of their ass and now they're fucking putting them out into the world, right? And it stinks like globalist shit because I think what they're starting to see is that he mentioned not long ago that he was considering running for prime minister. And I think that spooked them because they knew that if he got in there, there'd be no fucking way they'd be pulling strings on him, which would concern me then that they'd just put a bullet in his fucking head, which is, I think, probably what would happen if he started moving too fast, too quickly. Because with happened to Trump, I mean, they effectively did that to him. Well, he kind of did it to himself, too, though. He would be like, Jordan Peterson would be, he'd have a following like, he'd have a faithful following like Trump did, like a feverish following, but he's not an idiot, which it makes him very, 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 very dangerous. He's a Trump that's not an idiot. He's a Trump that's one of the wisest and smartest people probably alive today, at least in the public sphere, in my opinion. He's probably, he's definitely one of the greater philosophers alive today, I think. So that's what we need, but I don't think that's what we're going to get. But I don't know. In the meantime, all we can do is just meme on this. And
So,
what have you been
I'm
reading?
just watching this thing. Well, I think it is Trainwrecks is announcing. Of course, I get the Asmongold TV reaction to it in my fuck beat, but
He lives in Canada now. I was going to say earlier, it's the only Canadian content I consume probably.
yeah, he says Trainwrecks, it's time to move. Yeah, he streams from Vancouver. Yeah, so he's gonna have to move probably if this
Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, well, that's what the title of the video is Asmongold reacting to Trainwrecks, it's time to move. And yeah, they had mentioned him like XQC, he's Canadian, but he streams from Texas or whatever. He streams from the States, so he's good. Who else was it? It was Trainwrecks and another guy.
Fucking idiot.
But yeah, so 6 hours ago that was uploaded on Asmongold TV, so that was a little while ago, I guess.
Well, in other news, I just put this up in the thing here. I talk about this briefly.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe give some people some hope for a different world where we use bottle caps instead of loonies and toonies.
Anyone who's non-Canadian, because of our non-CanCon content, a loonie is a $1 coin and a toonie is a $2 coin.
Yeah, we don't use bills up in this bitch. We use fucking change. I've lost so many loonies out the fucking window of my car trying to pay for coffees from Timmy's. All right. This was in the news recently. So for anyone not familiar with the channel or the content, we tend to talk about conspiracy things from time to time. I tend to talk about conspiracy things from time to time. And from time to time, I mean quite frequently. But this one struck me as a little bit suspicious. You can probably see, I don't know, maybe you can, maybe you can't. You should be able to read out where all of these news outlets are from. So, we got CTV News. So let me just read through some of these news outlets that reported the story. The New York Times, USA Today, The Guardian, UK, Space.com, Euronews, Live Science, CNN, NDTV, CTV, Science Alert, Futurism, and Vice. What they're talking about, if you haven't read it already, planet killer asteroids nearly a mile long detected after being hidden by the sun's brightness. Astronomers have detected 3 asteroids in close proximity to Earth, 2 of which pose a potential threat as planet killers. So I'll elaborate a little bit on the actual.
And one's just a people killer.
Yeah, one would just
2 planet killers, one just kills everything on the planet.
Yeah, one would like knock out Canada, and one would knock out everything on planet Earth. So essentially, one of them is going to cross paths with the Earth's orbit at some point in the future. It might be a couple hundred years in the future, but at some point we'll have a crossing. And if it were to collide with the Earth, it would create something that would be the same as Chichen Itza. I think that's what it's called. It might be mispronounced, but it was the crater in the Yucatan Peninsula, like off Mexico, that theoretically killed the dinosaurs. So it'd be we wouldn't have seen a crash like that, an impact in 65 million years. Now, why is this suspicious? That's what we'll get into and touch on here just very briefly. It's suspicious because I have been following a narrative that
dissemination of the behind the sun narrative of Nibiru.
Well, okay, so there's a conspiracy theory for people that are not familiar with this, that there's another planet in our solar system and that it's in the inner solar system. Now, this is a crazy conspiracy theory. This is not one that I seriously endorse, but it's one that I take the other side of it very seriously, in that there's another planet in our solar system, and in ancient times it did come around and other people were around on it, and it kind of is Zachariah Sitchin-esque, but I think there's some pretty serious evidence for that in cylinder seals and through ancient depictions in like the Middle East. But the conspiracy theory is that it has returned and it's about to make a passage, and that it's being hidden by the sun's glare. And this is it's been through popular culture, but for like Zoomer generation, even millennials, you probably don't remember it. There were references made to this in the late 90s, early 2000s. The 2003 was when it was theoretically going to pass by and cause a cataclysm, and never did. But anyway, to meme on this for a second, the rhetoric around it being hidden in the sun's brightness, the sun's glare, obscured our vision from being able to see it. I have actually, unfortunately, observed since probably 2015, there was rhetoric started around this Planet 9 being discovered in our solar system. So this is essentially Planet X. There's a long history with this. That's quite legitimate. It's scientists trying to find this extra body in our solar system because it would explain for a lot of strange comings and goings that has happened. For instance, Uranus, if people don't know, our solar system actually is inclined a little bit like this, and all of our planets are in an equal orbit, but Uranus is actually flipped way up on its fucking side. Uranus orbits like almost upside down. Something knocked into Uranus. So there was some chaos that went on in our solar system, and in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, there was astronomers who were looking for something called Planet X, which is the same planet, X meaning 10th, also meaning X meaning unknown. And that search was kind of stopped on the basis of kind of some bullshit. That like some satellites went by Uranus and found the perturbations were incorrect. They misread the value. Fucking not. No. They brushed it under the rug for some reason. Anyway, this started back up in 2014, 2015 with the Planet 9 search, and I've observed a lot of weird, maybe this is just coincidence and science is evolving, but they've been talking about like brown dwarfs and rogue planets and how hard it is to detect rogue planets and how they can easily go undetected. There was an article based on a paper a couple years ago, I've got it saved here somewhere, where they were saying that a rogue planet could potentially even enter into our solar system undetected if it was going fast enough and it was dark enough. People saying not to underestimate the vastness of our solar system. The opposite argument was always used to disprove the conspiracy theory. We'd see it come in, et cetera, et cetera. Was the other, I'm trying to think of some other examples they were using, rogue planets, brown dwarfs. One was about elliptical orbits, comet-like orbits in other solar systems. So planets having orbits that are way more elliptical than normal, and how around binary star systems that it's quite common. Now, the Nibiru conspiracy theory, we're just going to touch on this briefly. This is not to do with this podcast, but there's a theory that we actually have an unlit dead binary twin, and there is a suspicious uh, article in a science journal from the late 1970s, early 1980s that actually depicts this theory, where you have our sun, our dead unlit sun, which acts as a gravity anchor, and then that is in fact what Planet X or Nibiru or whatever orbits around. So that's where it gets its elliptical orbit from. It's orbiting around our sun and then uh, our dead sun, our dead twin. They called it Nemesis back in the 80s. It was a theory. It may have been more than a theory behind the scenes. But anyway, so there's been a lot of rhetoric around this stuff, and it's kind of, if you were a conspiracy-oriented individual, you'd think there's been some kind of slow drip feed to the public, educating them on the potential that none of this is in fact insane, and that all this is well within the bounds of plausibility. But again, who knows? I don't know. They're saying that it was hidden in the sun's glare. Could a planet be hidden in the sun's glare around the orbit of Venus? I don't know. It's a lot of it's illogical. It would take us kind of reorienting ourselves scientifically. There would have to be a lot of things we kind of get wrong about the mechanisms of the solar system for that to occur. Just because it would be stalling things that it shouldn't be stalling for it to be there for as long as it's been there, in regards to the conspiracy theory. But anyway, just something I touch on that not just to do with the conspiracy theories surrounding the Planet X, but just to give people an update that they missed a couple asteroids. Just so everyone can sleep a little bit sounder at night. That unfortunately, we do miss things quite frequently, and the sun really inhibits our ability to see anything coming directly at us. So,
yes, we had that one a while ago that they didn't see coming because of the sun, and it like just missed us or whatever. I forget how many years ago that was, but like everyone was freaking out because like it came like super close, and then they didn't see it until like after, which is a freaky thing.
She's a shooting gallery. She's fucking free for all out there. Yeah. We're just lucky. Well, my theory is that we're not just lucky, and that we do avoid these mass extinctions, and we have probably by literally the hand of God, maybe. Because I think that's really, maybe it is just absolute luck. But and maybe we'll get hit by one tomorrow. I'll be like, oh fuck, I was wrong. There wasn't some force preventing these world killers from hitting us the last 65 million years. But yeah.
For sake of theory of everythings or whatever, I have some news about psilocybin. I saw on Philip DeFranco today that they are making leaps and bounds in its use for treating depression. So what they do is you get a dose of the psilocybin, but you need psychotherapy as well. So what happens is they're finding that after the doses, so what the doses does is it makes you more open to the change that therapy can actually put you to work on. So it's like your denials about things about yourself that might be letting you hold, like pocket that sort of traumatic energy or experience or whatever, or certain like like whatever. It just it makes you more I can't remember the verbatim thing that he used. Of course, he was much more eloquent with his wording, but it makes you more not susceptible to change, but acceptable to like the kind of rewriting your whatever. And so the result that they're seeing is when they dose them. So it's in a controlled environment. So this is not like it's not like a home dose thing where you can just microdose and like your depression's gone. It's a thing where they go in, they get the dose, and they go up. And then I don't know if they do the therapy while they're still like on the dose or they have to come down. But then the therapy is much more like effective, and then they are reporting for months and months to just not have depressive symptoms, which is crazy. I mean, for me, that sounds like crazy. No, but if I had
Mm.
never tried mushrooms though, I would never, because I think it makes sense, because I would always feel like a lasting sort of appreciation for my own like life and existence and experience I went through when I was always, it always left me with a positive thing. And I
Mm.
always thought I was just enamored because the drugs had such an effect. I'm so interested in drugs, like I don't have time to be depressed. But literally every time I've interacted with like psilocybin, I have lost sort of like general you just don't have like the bad days that you would normally have, I
Mm.
guess, in so somewhat so many words. Um Now they said a couple things, caution, right? Like um supposedly some headaches were happening. So this is kind of gets scary, but it's like reoccurring headaches after a while. So we don't know what that is about, but um, it's really cool. It's like, you just half of the brain just turned into mush, and I feel great.
Yeah, literally.
But
Yeah.
it's just cool that we're hearing reports of literal like depression being absolved, because that's what what's his name talks about. Oh my God, it's not Randall Carlson. It's or was it Randall Carlson? No, it was the guy who was up in the tree, Terrence McKenna,
Terrence
guy
McKenna,
up
yeah.
up in the tree, stutter be gone, stop
Yeah.
stuttering now, that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what he talks about with the psilocybin usage. He was able to like control anxiety. Oh, that the other thing
Oh,
too. They
that's
said
fucking
for
Paul Stamets.
Paul Stamets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was up in the tree in the Joe Rogan episode. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, during a storm, and he was like
Yes,
clinging on to the tree,
yeah,
was high
yeah.
on
I
mushrooms,
like
and
Paul too.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then he had like this near death experience in the storm. He told himself to stop stuttering, and he went down, and then the first thing he did when he got back was went and talked to this girl that he never would talk to. Did he marry her? I don't know if he married her or not.
Mm.
That might be a little bit of a fantasy, but um and uh and yeah, so actually with anxiety, there was they were saying that they're making progress with anxiety treatment as well. He didn't focus on that much,
Mm.
but yeah, just that sense of like this sort of because we really don't have medications that just stop depression after a treatment, right? Like you
Mm.
have SSRIs, and you have uh actually, I'm not even sure what else they would really use, but I'm familiar with SSRIs, which is it's like a chemical. It's an attempt to chemically inhibit the reabsorption of serotonin in the brain, and the theory is that more serotonin, more happy. Haha. Um, all medications are loose with their theories, right? It's all just they don't know how they work. They have theories of why they're working, and yada yada yada. But
Yeah.
this psilocybin, though, it's been around. It's got all of these properties where it's like you just don't. It's like I've never microdosed on it, so I don't really know. I'll have to have that maybe be a bucket list thing to try to
Get the
see if
shit pile
microdosing
going out back.
is even possible. Yeah, I mean, like, I could even talk to my doctor though, too, because if these things are happening, then I mean, it's something that I would try. Like if I could be like every 2 months go to a facility, have a
Mm.
3 hour thing where it's like, or I don't know what it would be. It might be 10 hours. I don't know. It depends on what the dosage is, because apparently the dosage they give them induces a dreamlike state. So I don't know if they're just like, if that's just their way of
Jeez, it's microdosing.
describing a mushroom high. No, when they get dosed for the therapy, it's a high dose.
The fucking hero
Um,
dose. Fucking.
Yeah, so that's the thing though, because microdosing and this sort of like dosing then therapy is very different. The dosing and therapy is probably a more extreme thing when you have someone coming out of like a intensely traumatic thing that they just cannot like they cannot engage with. Then you're gonna need the high dose of psilocybin to sort of break down that wall, that fear of engagement with it, so you can actually do therapeutic work. Because that is like it's the first sort of like line of defense of the body to keep that trauma response strong and always like happening when it's like trying to happen and shit. Then the micro doses is more, seems to be more of like a daily relief sort of thing. So it's possible that, I mean, again, not a doctor, so I'm just saying, like, guessing. This is my guess that we're gonna see maybe microdosing anxiety, depression relief, for like high dose and then therapy. If we get to a place where we've ruled out bad side effects that are going to be problematic. But yeah, I thought that was really cool. Positive thing. And as far as it goes with the whole theory of everything thing, it could be big. Could be big. You got a lot of depressed people, and all of a sudden, all these depressed people start taking psilocybin and start expanding their consciousness a bit. You might wake some people up in the realm of like doing what the thing. I mean, you might push some people into harder drugs or whatever. But what are you laughing about, Jim?
If only
you
these
say
monkeys
right
would just eat the fucking mushrooms we gave them. It's gonna enlighten them. It's gonna change. Here at the Casual Cats, we like putting theories to the test. If you want to see us do for our 100th episode of Casual Cats peanut butter sandwich, we're gonna fucking load her 20 grams. Right?
I don't know if we can do that on Twitch. I think that's TOS, isn't it, on Twitch? We could do that. We could do a recorded podcast episode though. Streamers, that would be interesting.
I'll let you eat it. Yeah, I personally avoided the mushrooms. For the very real possibility that it could be melting parts of our brain. But
sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes. But you will be the mushroom test. Honestly, my theory of everything is that what the mushrooms are doing is they are inducing a form of like psychoactive hypnosis. And I think really honestly, hypnotherapy might be a way to get people to start speaking to maybe higher parts of themselves. For instance, Michael Newton's theory of hypnosis, that what he does is instead of taking people to like an alpha state, he gets them into a deep theta brainwave state. He hypnoses them deeply. Now, Michael Newton was a clinical psychologist that specialized in hypnotherapy, and he inadvertently started getting people telling them about past lives they lived. Wacky shit in between lives. Essentially what Michael Newton did was through hypnotherapy uncover we're living in a simulation. That's one way of us understanding it. And people would have profound experiences through that because they would be able to kind of cut out the human ego entirely, and just whatever that our consciousness is, whatever guides the human body, was able to communicate with him and also with themselves. And there's a lot of he has a lot of case studies. He had like fucking like I think it's over 8,000 case studies or 6,500 case studies, like a disgusting amount of case studies with this work. And through like no drugs whatsoever, just literally shutting down the human ego, he was able to help a lot of people overcome a lot of fears and get a much deeper perspective on like what all this is. Now, obviously, people weren't bringing back evidence that there's a spirit world and we're souls, and this world is kind of just a projection for us to learn from. But that's essentially what he got. And when you have that many case studies around something like that, I don't know. If I have any faith in something, I try to be a logical person as much as I possibly can be. If I were to put faith in something, it wouldn't be in the Bible or the Quran or any of these religious texts based on stories and allegories from much older civilizations. It'd be something like what Michael Newton found in his book. You guys can read it, Journey of Souls. I've mentioned it here before, my theory of everything. But I think...
So I'm going to mention something, though, because I struggle with depression, and I want people with depression to know the right facts here. So
Yes.
there is no proof that psilocybin melts your brain. The long-term health impacts of psilocybin mushrooms are mostly psychological, not physical. Physically, psilocybin mushrooms are considered to be one of the least toxic drugs known, although lethal doses have been determined from experiments in several animal models. Recorded cases of deaths exclusively attributed to usual doses of psilocybin mushrooms in humans are extremely rare. Physical effects are minor but varied and can be unique from person to person. The most constant reactions, such as dilated pupils, elevated blood pressure, increased heart rate, are usually mild and considered side effects of emotional intensification. However, these, along with other reported symptoms like nausea, increased perspiration, numbing, and tremors, can sometimes make psychological symptoms like anxiety, panic attacks, paranoia, and mood swings seem worse. Long-term physical effects directly attributed to the pharmacology of psilocybin are rare, and research suggests they may also be due to latent psychological disorders. So, it does not melt your brain, but
No.
there are the risks of the increased heart rate, yada yada, things that we mentioned there. I
No,
guess
I
there's
think
another
I think
section here of
I do believe
flashbacks
they're
too.
safe. I do believe that people use them safely. It's just
Yeah.
any mind
Because
altering
like it's a
substance.
big thing for someone who's like been like known of the clinical depression since like 19, but pretty sure it's been a strong force in my life since I was like fucking like 10, right? I think like
Oh, same.
through
Yeah.
puberty everyone gets like hormonal and starts to develop stuff like that, but like there's just, I don't know, it's always been almost like an outlying thing where it's like you feel like you should be able to engage with stuff at the same level that everyone else does, but it's just not like thrilling or inspiring in the same way. And then you've got like these fucking like manic hints, and it's different with everyone because like I mostly am seasonal depression, so I'm like getting into it now as the fucking daylight disappears and stuff. I'll be fucking depressed for the winter, and I'll deal with it because I deal with it every fucking year. And then summer comes and you get like I get a little bit better, but yeah, I'm deep diving into it. But like to have that potential for alleviation, like how long is the winter? Like fucking, it's only like we only have like 10-month long winters in Canada, so that's like four that's like four long term. They're
Yeah.
four treatments for me, and not be held down by depression. That's like exciting news, and I wouldn't want anyone to hear that and think like it's not for them because my brain's gonna get melted. That's not gonna be the case.
No. No.
Yeah.
Um.
Now, the anxiety, panic attacks, and paranoid mood swings, all of these I have witnessed while on mushrooms, every single one. So let's see. Nausea, lightly, but I don't get nausea a lot. Increased perspiration. Oh boy, yeah. Numbing and tremors. I don't know about tremors, maybe numbing. Psychological symptoms like anxiety, panic attacks, and paranoia and mood swings seem worse. So paranoia, of course, because it's like it's a drug you're not supposed to be doing, but I think that's like the one thing I'm really interested about these the clinical applications of the drug, because you'll be going in there and it's not like, oh fuck, I'm breaking the rules, and people can't know I'm on shrooms, they're gonna think I'm a druggie because I tried this. It's just gonna be like, I'm here to like help myself. Such a better fucking environment,
Oh my
especially
God, yeah.
when like the way that shrooms, as I said, kind of like open you up to all these different well, I guess the psychedelics, but psilocybin in particular, open you up to this sort of like um uh these abilities to like sort of like reperceive yourself and the things that your processes and stuff, and
What about sexual encounters with spirits?
sexual
Can I
encounters with
get?
spirits. So yeah, the hallucination effect. So I think what that was, I know, so what Jim's referring to is most recent time I took mushrooms, I recanted the experience as I believe there was some sort of African feminine spirit that was in my room, and we were like entangled in a sort of like what felt almost like a romantic dance of some kind, in a sense. But I think that was just me, maybe coming into a feminine side of myself, where and just like the African thing, I think was because I perceived it to be very like ancestrally deep or something. Like so it was like the mother of humanity or something. That's kind of like what I was perceiving, some sort of like life-giving mother, and from the Mesopotamian ideals of what like the original like Eve would look like. It was like an African woman. And so yeah, part of the trip, I was dancing with this idea that there was like a ghost in my room that I was communicating with or something, and and there was like an embrace period at one point, and then I was like, did I have sex with a ghost just there? And so I don't know, but now of course, like something like that, if I had, you know, gone to a doctor and told that, maybe I would have got more, you know, maybe I would have got a bunch of insight. I went to gym, you know, we hung out and walked down the road, and you know, I reflected upon it, and I got some out of it, and but just, you know, the therapy, because like, you know, from my recent experience with therapy, I had like a eye-opening, you know, I've talked about it before, eye-opening experience years ago when I actually went to therapy, and it was very progressive and healing. We're going past our time limit here by 1 minute, but yeah, like to have that yeah, I just think that's cool, and I'm gonna keep my eye on that, and we might see me even guinea pig it. Who knows? We'll just guinea pig it a bit. Fucking doc.
Let's do her in the Casual Cats. In regard, maybe we'll see some spirits. Hey. It sounded like to me someone spent too much time in the ebony section of X videos, but you can go.
We'll have. Well, I don't spend much time in the ebony section of X videos. I don't know recently. Call it personal opinion or what? Maybe that's something I need to invest. Hey, maybe that is something. Maybe that
need
could
to branch out a little bit, but
maybe that's what I needed, right? Maybe that's what it was. It was a lacking of an experience that I do want to have, and that sort of thing. But you know, that'll have to come maybe in the next life, because currently in a relationship with Melissa. But yeah. So
yeah. All right. Well, we can wrap all this up.
I think D&D tomorrow, making a map on Leaky at some point, and it's going to be Canadian content when we do it. Yeah, we'll get the doctor approval. It'll be me microdosing. We'll do like fucking Casual Cat check-ins, and then that's how we'll get our CanCon thing, because we'll find a Canadian researcher who's doing psilocybin, and then we'll go from there, and then that's like and we'll get it all fixed up. We get it all fixed up.
Yeah, we're gonna get a big PB and J together. We're gonna stack every one of those fucking mushrooms in that sandwich. Hero dose live on fucking Twitch.
And we're gonna have like top 10 things to fucking think about while therapy, fucking self-improvement things on you. We'll get some top 10 videos going, and get some, maybe a better help therapist up or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, until then, we're gonna be keeping it casual.
Enjoy, lads. Oh, we should probably mention before we close this out, we're gonna be gone for 2 weeks. So
yes. Oh yeah, there's gonna be a 2-week gap. Well, Jim explores the world.
I'm gonna be in France and Spain.
Yeah.
Yes, monsieur.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Search for the ice wall. We'll be looking out for the ice wall there.
Yeah.
And yeah. So.
Well.
For